So tonight's title is Bridging the Susquehanna, Ice, Fire, Wind, and Man Destroyed 4 spans, 2 long bridges stand tall. I am Jamie Kinsley.
Jim, was that you? And I'm Domi Miller.
And we've been doing this now for about a year and a half. Well, I guess about almost a year. Almost a year, yeah. This is our second season, so please go on YouTube to watch our other videos where we talk about local history. So tonight we are at the Burning Bridge in Wrightsville. This is the first time we left Newberrytown.
I know, we're becoming world travelers. All the way to southern New York County.
So, Domi and I were neighbors. I moved to Newberrytown back in May. It's been almost a year, and since then we've been filming and down the street, picking each other up, which has been really nice. But this is the first time we're going out of our neck of the woods to head down to this beautiful bridge that we have right here. We're going to talk about the Veterans Memorial Bridge as well as Route 30 and then the bridges that came before us.
Right.
Okay. So we're hoping that over the next 40 minutes, you walk away with these 3 takeaways. One is that York County is a place of renewal. Every time these bridges fell down, we rebuilt, and every time we rebuilt them, they were new and improved. And of course, at the center of our story, we talk about the people who built this town and this area, because the stories that we tell, that's our heritage and that's what we remember. The 6 bridges, 2 were destroyed by nature. 2 were destroyed by man, and 2 are still standing. It really works out well.
It does, yeah. Nice even number.
Yeah, 2s, 2s, and 2s. Jim, Domi, and I came up with these names for the 6 bridges. They're totally made up. We tried to make some puns to make it more funny. So we're going to start with Bridge 1, which is known as the Ferryman's Nightmare, followed by the Burning Bridge, of course, tonight's main theory. Gone with the Wind.
I came up with that one.
Civil War buff over here. Steely Span, Photographer's Delight, and then Pathway to Park City Bridge number 6.
And as we go tonight, you're going to realize why we chose these names.
Yeah,
so.
At the end we can go and quiz you. Big shout out to the Zimmerman Center and the Susquehanna National Heritage Area. This is where we got the majority of our content. If it wasn't for other local historians and researchers, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So thank you to them. We also want to highlight too the pictures of the bridges here. You can see Route 30, but then also the Veterans Memorial Bridge. But then these pillars that were left from bridges 2 through 4, and then we're told, and maybe the locals can tell us when we do our Q&A, that where the ripple section is closer to Route 30, you can see the pillars from the first bridge that was erected. So that would be a cool, maybe a secondary video where we go down there and actually try scouting and trying to find it.
You can go find it.
So we thought we would start by asking you, how did people cross the river before we had bridges? What do you think people did? Dayton! I have a previous student here, everyone, who came out to see me. He actually volunteered to listen to his history teacher after high school. So it's not mandatory. Dayton! Canoes! You got that right. Thank you. Good. You must have had a wonderful history teacher.
It's almost like he read my notes or something. So yeah, the Native Americans were very smart people, and the Susquehannocks, particularly that inhabited this area, they had canoes that they dug out. They used trees, and they dug out canoes, and now these were really large, heavy canoes, so they're not carrying them across land. So they kept them close to the river, and they were using them to go back and forth for fishing. Just your everyday, all-purpose crossing the river machine, and that's what they used. And then you can fast forward to a more modern day, and that's when we came up with ferrying across the river. So John Wright's restaurant right across the street is synonymous with John Wright's Ferry, and that's why we're in Wrightsville, because of John Wright. So do we have a picture of that?
Of the ferry? Yes.
John Wright's Ferry?
Yep.
Well, okay.
This isn't John Wright's Ferry.
It isn't John Wright's Ferry, but this shows you a picture of the Accomack, actually. So this is what a scene would look like if you were in an area where they ferried across the river. So before the modern boats and before bridges, this is how you were getting around. And you were only going to really do it in the summer, especially if you were only riding in a canoe, because the Susquehanna can be very treacherous. with high winds, high water levels. It's just really dangerous.
Fast moving.
Yeah, and I mean, even today, you always hear on the news, unfortunately, about people who are out fishing and they capsize and they pass away, or they get into a dam. So it's just not safe.
A couple of summers ago, I went out and saw the petroglyphs. Has anyone seen the Native American artwork that's carved into the rocks on the Susquehanna? It is a beautiful experience. I highly encourage you to go out there. I decided to go out on a paddleboard. Maybe wasn't the best decision. It was precarious to say the least. It was very cool, and you got to go out there and experience the river.
I hope you had your life jacket.
I actually did have my life jacket. Another shout out to June Lloyd. She is another local historian. Domi and I are building our work off the shoulders of these giants. So again, shout out to her for all of her hard work. She writes a blog called Universal York if you would like to read more. That gets us now into our first bridge, which Jim came up with this idea, the ferryman's nightmare. So this is going to cause the ferries to pretty much go out of business. They built the first bridge, and you can see there they built it in 1814. It lasted for about 20-ish years. Took a long time to build. It was a covered bridge. This picture here is of a painting by W.H. Bartlett, and he was a traveler. Now, if you are a local historian expert, you'll know that he was actually here after the bridge fell, and so he never actually saw it himself. This would have been a painting that he would have assumed that it looked like. We actually don't have any real pictures or any real portraits from
his interpretation of it.
Yep. So this first bridge here was, like I said, a covered bridge, and we have Theodore Burr to thank. He was an engineer that came down from Connecticut who helped us design the truss system for this. This design was pretty frequently used throughout the area, not just York County. I think this speaks to York County and how Jim McClure has said before that we're this area of the middleness. We're not cutting edge pioneers creating the first ever trusses, but we're also not behind the times either. So this system would have been fairly common, and so we employed it relatively soon.
Yeah, and I think the covered bridges are synonymous with Pennsylvania and the Pennsylvania countryside.
Well, and so when I was doing this research, I found out that there's a Theodore Burr Society, which is really cool, that there's a group of people that believe in it so much that they volunteer their time to research more about covered bridges and Theodore Burr. Yeah. Okay. So unfortunately,
dun dun dun,
it was destroyed.
So it was destroyed by ice. So once again, coming back to how treacherous the Susquehanna can be, water levels rise and then it freezes over, and ice is very destructive. And I don't think people today realize how destructive ice can be. But when you have a wooden truss bridge and the ice breaks apart and the water levels rise, it just swept away the bridge right off the pillars. So it wasn't good, and that was how our first bridge was destroyed.
This is not a picture of the ice from that time. This was a picture of ice that was from more the 1900s, but we thought that it would show you the awesomeness though of Mother Nature. Yeah, ice is pretty scary.
It is, yeah, and I don't think it's something that in the modern day we're that worried about anymore, because you know, our bridges aren't necessarily made just from wood, and they're built a little higher off the river, but still it's something that you have to worry about.
Yeah, even just slipping. How many of you have slipped on ice before? A few of you in here. Yep. Oh, bridge number 2. So the second bridge, this again speaks to York County and our ability to improve and always grow and expand. So it did not take long for us to design and then build our second bridge across the Susquehanna River. We realized that ferries, while they serve their purpose in York County history, they were not going to be the complete route of the future, that they saw other opportunities in bridges. And then also, I mean, we're talking about York County history, but this impacted all of the surrounding area, South Central Pennsylvania and Lancaster as well. So it's not just our area. This one's a little bit more expensive, and this took about 27 piers to go across. And what's cool about this bridge is that you can see there in the image that it has 2 different pathways. In the 1840s, they built 2 tow paths for canal boats. And they also had then in the 1850 a double railroad track for railroads. So this area was poppin'. Canals, boats, carriages that are going to take you across. So this area was this place where people met when they wanted to go west.
Right. So this is for me because I'm the
Civil
history
War.
buff.
She's a reenactor. If you didn't know, she reenacts the Civil War.
Yeah, 87th PA. Shout out. So, who can name the general that came through? Don't read the name off the picture.
Nobody look.
Nobody look. Oh man. Okay. So you get that one for free. Jubal Early came. And for York County, the Confederates coming through was a major issue. So you think you're a woman living in York County, it's 10 a.m. on a Sunday, and all of a sudden the enemy rides through town. And if you look out here, right down the main street in town, the Confederates would have been coming on horseback. And they would have had pickaxes and they would have had shovels. And I guarantee the first thing in your mind is, oh no, they're coming to dig our graves. They're gonna get rid of us. And you're right here on the river. And what was important during the Civil War? The high ground, and bridges and water. So what's the easiest way to cross the water? You got a bridge. You don't have to worry about boats. You don't have to worry about anything.
Interesting that something that led to our prosperity also attracted the enemies.
It was a good way to cross the Susquehanna. So they had orders to destroy the bridge.
First to destroy it.
To destroy the bridge, but when they got here and they saw what they had, they said, we're going to capture the bridge. We're going to capture Wrightsville, we're going to capture the bridge, and we're going to use it to our advantage. So then the people of Wrightsville had to scramble and figure out what they were going to do, because they didn't want this Confederate advance to continue. They didn't want them to go all the way across the bridge and enter Columbia.
Yep. And so at 8 o'clock, if you are primarily here for the Civil War history, Cody Esch will go on and tell us way more about this. We do not want to just repeat ourselves, so we're going to stop there. Stay tuned. Make sure you join us at 8 o'clock for more about specifically the Civil War and Bridge number 2. Anyone know the painter of this image?
And their name's not written on the picture.
Oh, it is? It is? If you look at
Lewis Miller.
Look, good job, gold star. Lewis Miller. So another big takeaway that we want you to walk away with tonight is that people are our history. So Lewis Miller was just this average dude that was in York County in the 17 and 1800s, and he painted normal people. So this picture was significant. I mean, the Confederates invading our community was a big deal.
Right.
But normally, if you'd go to any Lewis Miller catalog that they have, the History Center has his work. If you go downtown York, they have pictures of his that are blown up on the streets. He just painted people doing what they did, their normal everyday life, which we want to celebrate. We just don't want to talk about the good guys and the bad guys, but just normal people going about their day. So as you know, we are in the Burning Bridge Tavern. And you've probably already heard that bridge number 2 ended because it was incinerated, caught on fire. This is a picture of, it was a painting, and it was done in the 1900s. There is some contention as to who painted it. Some say that there were local artists who came for a local artist guild, but then others say that scholars, students in the area painted it. We're not sure. There are a few copies. I know the Historical Society in Wrightsville do have a few on display if you would like to go there and see them. Yep. So yeah, just to take a second to, we don't want to just talk at you. We really are trying to create this story in your head where you can think about history and feel like you've experienced it and lived it. So imagine that this is your town. This is where you go to church. This is where you work. And you hear about the enemy that's approaching with pickaxes and shovels, and they're about to take over, and you have no idea what's going to happen.
Right.
A lot of men were away. There were a lot of women who were left still defending the fort. And then you hear about them going to cross the bridge. You choose to catch it on fire, because that's what happened. Our own soldiers burn it. We burn it to stop them from going across. Can you imagine just the pain and bravery that must have taken to say, we're going to light our own construction on fire. We're going to burn it to stop this group. I would be crying, I think. I would be so upset. Yeah. And as you look out and as you begin to burn, you can see the flames reflecting off the water. And you can see the wood as it begins to crumble and turn black and fall in the water. And you knew you did something right But who's right next door still? You may have stopped the Confederates from going across the river, but who do you have to account to the next morning? The Confederates. They're very angry.
Right, they were not happy.
Nope.
So originally the plan was not to burn the entire bridge. They thought they could burn half of the bridge, and they put up mines underneath this bridge. And they employed Jacob Miller. So Jacob Miller, and this is interesting because of the time period. So Jacob Miller was a black man. And a quote from our own Jim McClure is, "One black man had it in his power to stop an entire rebel brigade, perhaps a whole division, by touching that cigar to a fuse." So this gentleman was put in charge of lighting the fuse that would essentially blow up half of the bridge. But the bridge, unfortunately, was built a little too well. And it didn't really completely explode like they thought. A few pieces came off, there was a fire, so then they thought, well, we have to do something more. Because, you know, with only little portions of the bridge being burned up and destroyed, the Confederates could still make their way across the bridge. So then they had to make the decision to burn down the entire bridge and to set the entire bridge on fire.
And then also Jim McClure gets a lot of his work with Scott Mingus. They work very closely. They've done a lot of books together as well. So again, we're in the burning bridge. So now you know the history of where this name came from for this tavern. And just to expand too on this area of Wrightsville, like we said, in the 1970s, bustling metropolitan, metropolitan, where people would come to trade goods, services. But then in the 1800s, it becomes more of a quiet, sleepy town where people just go about their day. And in the 1900s, not much changed in this area. I mean, if you drive down the street, isn't it beautiful? You can still see some of the houses that were built in the 18 and 1900s, and it's been restored, and people take care of the area. And so because of that, it's been able to maintain a lot of its heritage through the 1900s. Go check out Historic Wrightsville on all the work that they do and their website to learn more specifically about this area's history. So that brings us to super cool chick. I'm a fan of hers. Amazing heroine. Her name, Mary Jane McGee Rewalt.
And we are in the McGee room tonight.
Shout out to Miss McGee.
So after they burnt down the bridge, it didn't take long for things in Wrightsville to be set on fire as well. So here you are in a town, you've just burnt down the bridge, that's your only way to get across the river, and then you're stuck here with the Confederates, and things are on fire. The men are gone fighting in the Civil War, the women are here, left to defend the town, left to keep things going, and the buildings are starting to burn. So this is June 1863, and the Rewalt home was close to the fire. So, I don't want to get her name wrong. Mary Jean McGee Rewalt lived there. Mary Jane, I'm sorry. And her father, James F. McGee, Wrightsville's chief burgess, and her husband was away serving in the Union Army.
He was a doctor.
So she invited General Gordon and his staff for breakfast to show her gratitude because they helped keep her house from burning down. So
Which, just to take a second, when I first heard this, that, oh good, the Confederates stopped the houses from burning, like they must have had some chivalry. No. Domi's like, no, stop. Like that is not why they stopped these houses from burning down.
We're not Confederate sympathizers here.
Well, and then she reminded me, they were here first to burn the bridge. That was what they were told to do. Plus, they did it for, what'd you tell me?
Well, they stopped the town from burning down because this was a strategic place for them. If you move an entire army into a town, you've got to have a headquarters. You have to have places for your soldiers to sleep. You're going to want to take their farm animals. You want their food. You want their clothes. I mean, this is a place that they could just sort of move into and camp out and sort of, you know,
use
it
to their
beats
advantage.
Being in a farm field somewhere in your dog tent. So she invites the general into her home and she says, General Gordon, and this is amazing. She was a very brave woman, and I don't know if I would have the gall to talk to a Confederate general this way.
In your kitchen.
In your kitchen, but I fully comprehend you, and it is due to myself that I candidly tell you that I'm a Union woman. I cannot afford to be misunderstood, nor to have you misinterpret this simple courtesy. You and your soldiers last night saved my home from burning, and I unwillingly that you should go away without receiving some token of my appreciation. But I must tell you, however, that when my assent and approval, my husband is a soldier in the Union Army, and my constant prayer to heaven is that your cause may triumph and the Union will be saved. That our cause will triumph and the Union will be saved.
Can you imagine?
No, so she's basically telling them, F you. Get out of here.
Right? This general is in their house and he says, hey, I heard that you're a Southern sympathizer. She's like, no, I don't think so, sir. I support the Union. Thank you, though, for saving my house. Have some eggs.
Yeah, because I mean, the Confederates, they did help her. They started a bucket brigade and they made sure that the town of Wrightsville didn't turn into ash, but they weren't doing it because they were just wonderful, nice people. So, you know, here she is, a woman of honor who's saying, you know, thank you. I'm appreciative of what you've done, but I want you to know my husband's out there fighting for my freedom and to make sure that you don't win.
Yep. So while the Confederates were coming up here, there were also a lot of strategies to stop them from crossing the area through trenches. So soldiers started immediately digging into the ground, and it was both the Union military as well as the local civilians who thought that this would be a good idea, not just the bridge, but also these trenches to stop them. So there was a man with a black volunteer unit from Columbia that joined him. And when the Confederates got close, this group that was brought over to basically do labor, to build the infrastructure to stop the Confederates, they set down their shovels and they picked up their rifles and they started firing against the Confederates. There is way more about this specific story on Jim McClure's blog. It is called Yorktown Square. Please go and read it for the full story. But for the skinny, here's what happened. One of the Confederates, they had a shell that ended up decapitating this man who was over here volunteering as a free black man to stop the Confederates from continuing into the north. And so he lost his life. He is still an unknown soldier today. We do not know his name. So again, we just want to stress that our presentations are to highlight some of the negatives of our time period, the positives, but most importantly, the people that made our history and the ability to be here possible.
Right.
The shells also not only went after the soldiers that we were defending, but also civilians.
Right.
There's one woman named Amanda Beaverson, and she was crossing the street with her children, and there was a Confederate shell that almost hit her, and she just narrowly escaped. So again, the Confederates were going after like anybody and their mother, pretty much.
Well, yeah, when an enemy occupies your town, unfortunately, civilians will end up being a casualty.
Third bridge.
Gone with the Wind, I named this one. So, you'll find out why it's called Gone with the Wind, but after we burn the Wrightsville Bridge, we're coming up on a new invention. So now, instead of just using ferries and walking across bridges and using our wagons, we're going to use the railroad system to transport things. And not only for transporting goods, but it's also going to be a transportation for people. Mm-hmm. So they needed a bridge that could withstand the railroad. So we're going from wooden truss bridges, and now we're going to use iron and steel to do this. And you can see, again, it's a covered bridge idea, but this one was much more expensive. It was financed by the Columbia Bridge Company, and with inflation, the cost would be about $400,000 back then.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what that would be today.
Yeah.
Not even going to talk about gas prices. But it's the same exact location that our second bridge was at.
Mm-hmm. Then one dreaded day in 1896, the cyclone came through.
The wind.
Yep.
We're gone with the wind.
It's called the Cedar Keys cyclone, and there were winds that hit upwards of 70 miles per hour that went after it came up the coast, across Florida, and then up the coast, and then hit our bridge directly over this area, causing the bridge to collapse. And you can see there that this thing was so strong that it took down wood, but then also the metal that was a part of this covered bridge. So poor Gone with the Wind.
I know, it's so sad. And that brings us to our fourth bridge, Steely Span. I wanted to call this Old Iron Sign, but Jim thought it would be cute to do Steely Span. But so early designs of this bridge was more of a double-decker bridge. So think of your double-decker buses in Great Britain. I would be totally way too scared to use a double-decker bridge. That's too much for me.
Yeah, that would be a little gnarly, like looking down and seeing people traveling
I'm afraid of heights, so I'm glad that they didn't actually go through with that. But it was never added despite the regular traffic jams. So they were really trying to come up with a way that they could modernize the system and come up with these traffic jams. And they thought, hey, let's do a double-decker bridge, but they decided not to.
Yeah, they never did it.
No, and then they used the York Express. So the York Express was from York to Philadelphia, and then automobiles also were an issue with the traffic jams for this bridge as well.
Yep. Isn't this just the coolest picture?
It is. It looks like they're boxing on top of the bridge.
Like, I love how sassy these men are with their hand on their hip. Like, look what we built.
And they built it really quickly as
Yeah,
well.
less than a month.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why they built it so fast were that the steel structures that you see there came already prefabricated. So they did not have to do a lot of the welding on site. They were able to just pump them out, show them up, and then just basically position them like in place.
Right. I mean, could you imagine if a bridge today was built in less than a month?
In Pennsylvania? I don't think so.
that would be pretty amazing,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yep. So next time you cross the river, so we're gonna move in here to eventually our fifth and sixth bridge. You can still see these pillars. So now what's cool about you, thank you first of all for volunteering to spend your time tonight. We appreciate you coming out and talking to us. But now you've walked away with more information. You can look at the pillars and say, oh, I learned about the three bridges that were on those specific bridge pillars, 2, 3, and 4, and what happened to them. Burned, cyclone, and then we're gonna talk about what happened to this one here. One more shout out to Stephen Smith. Again, we used his information for this slide. He is another local history blogger called York's Past. 1960s.
Dismantled.
Dismantled.
The humans did it this time.
Yep. Which again, I think too, it speaks to York County's ability to look at renewal and improvement and say, this isn't serving our needs anymore. Let's get rid of it. Let's build something that's more new and improved. So they started to dismantle that in 1962. And if you look very closely, you can figure out why. The bridge in the background. So this time period, we are going to see a lot of concrete. The idea of masonry bridges were around since 1300 BC. That is how far back masonry bridges go. However, it took so much labor, it was so laborious to build these bridges that is why they went more with the wood look and then the metal look, but masonry took a long time. Then though, during this time period, around the early 1900s, the construction of the specific bridge right out here, the Columbia and Wrightsville Bridge, that is when they're going to have this renaissance of modern concrete. And for a while, this was the longest multi-span concrete arch bridge in the world at the time.
The world.
The world.
In little Wrightsville, PA.
No. And I mean, look at that image. You can see how just like small the people would be. And there you can see in the background bridge number 4 and how they were then building the concrete bridge right beside it. But I mean, you can't be scared of water. I hope these people knew how to swim.
Life vests or something. And then we have bridge number 5. So we have decided to call this Photographer's Delight, and you can see why. So this is a very photographed bridge. It's a beautiful place. A lot of people take pictures of it. There's a lot of paintings of it. It's very beautiful, but it's actually called the Veterans Memorial Bridge, and that's one of the bridges that's still standing today. So contractors finished this bridge in 140 days early.
When does that ever happen? 140 days early.
And they got $400 a day for finishing it early. So you can imagine how much that cost taxpayers. That's horrible. And when it was opened, vehicle traffic on the 4th bridge stopped. Mm-hmm. So what was really nice about this is they didn't have to worry about the fact that one bridge was destroyed and wait to do another bridge. They were ahead of the game this time. They finished it early and they had another bridge already set up, ready to go. So there was also tolls charged for this bridge, because if you're paying workers $400 a day and they finished it 140 days early, you're gonna have to pay for it somehow. So like the South Bridge in Harrisburg might be tolled, this was tolled in Wrightsville.
But what's cool though is that once people paid off the bridge, they stopped the toll.
That's nice, yes.
Yeah, I was reading a story about the Johnstown flood up in Johnstown and how they instituted a tax and to rebuild the city, and the tax is still there. Like decades and decades later, they're still taxing the citizens. So York County, I appreciate that they said, hey, this bridge costs money. Someone's got to pay for it. If you're going to use it, pay for it. But then once it was paid off, they said, okay, thank you so much. We are no longer going to start charging anyone.
Right.
If they start charging 83, I go across, so I teach at a school that's relatively close to here, but I take 83 Bridge every day. And if they start charging me, I don't know.
They might. I don't know. I might have to get ready for that.
I might take the longer route of going across Route 30.
A lot of people are going to take the longer route to avoid the toll.
Yeah, we'll see. It better go quicker. As long as it's quicker, I don't mind.
Right.
So there are some local artists who have painted the bridge. Like we said, this is the photographer's delight. So Paul Godfrey, he's a local artist, and he shared with us on our Facebook pages, Preserving the History of Newberrytown and Retro York, some of the paintings that he's done. And then we also had someone.
This is so cool. She's here tonight.
Posted a picture of a tattoo of the bridge. That is a dedication to local
like how
history.
Pennsylvania are you that you have a Pennsylvania tattoo? That is so cool.
So special thanks to those of you who follow us.
Oh, it's her birthday?
Oh,
Happy
birthday!
Thank you for coming on your birthday. That's amazing.
Thousands of people.
You're Pennsylvania famous now.
Local celebrity. Everyone sees your leg. You'd be like, I'm the girl with the leg tattoo.
You gotta top it somehow.
So thank you to everyone who goes on our Facebook pages, Retro York and Preserving the History of Newberrytown, and sharing your images. Because again, Domi and I like the engagement. We don't like to talk in a silo or vacuum where we don't hear any engagement back. So for those of you who like our post, share our post, but then also like engage and ask questions and share photos, we appreciate that. Urban legend says that when the 5th bridge was built, a worker fell into the concrete. They say that if you go to one of the concrete supports and look up at the exact perfect spot, that you can see his boot print still in the pillar.
I don't know.
You'd be down there with a flashlight.
Oh yeah, it would be super cool. I'd be there, but I don't know.
Local historians said this probably it never really happened. However, it's a cool story.
Yeah, not every town can say that they have like a worker encased in their bridge.
What does that say about our community? We have a worker that fell in the bridge.
We like urban legend. We like that kind of spooky stuff around here.
That's why OSHA is important, kids. Make sure that you follow the rules and are safe.
And that brings us to bridge number 6.
The final bridge.
Pathway to Park City. Who doesn't know Park City? Everyone here knows Park City?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I got my vaccines.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they had a clinic in the old Boss Cops. But Pathway to Park City. So Route 30, you guys. So the 6th bridge was another bridge made of reinforced concrete and steel, and it's on 45 piers. And it was constructed to relocate Route 30. And Route 30 first ran from Wrightsville to Columbia across the Veterans Memorial Bridge, but this diverted more traffic because, again, traffic is a problem. The more people that live here on each side of the river, the more bridges that you're going to have.
Yeah. It's known as the Wrightsville Bridge, but again, I think I call it more Route 30.
Yeah, I think I call it Route 30.
Yeah. So like Domi said, this is 4 lanes. So again, York County is improving. I also don't really get stuck on that bridge very often. I think the
traffic moves pretty well.
Yep.
Unless there's a wreck or something.
Yeah. So they did a good job. Kudos to them for building the bridge. It's not very pretty. We don't take a lot of pictures, but it's efficient, and that works for us commuters. And it cost $12 million. So this was a lot more expensive than the previous bridges. There is possibly going to be a 7th bridge.
We'll have to do a whole new episode.
Yeah, not sure if you heard about this, but there are some local tourist agencies in the area that are trying to promote this area, not only because it helps local hometown people who own businesses, small businesses like today, and the owners here didn't charge us for having this space tonight. Like, this is just community support, and we're just doing this because we love history and we want to share history. And so I love feeling the fuzzies, guys, feeling warm and fuzzy. But they're thinking that if they build a 7th bridge, that it'll bring more people to the area, help with the local economy, bring in more money, but then also give people a chance to interact with the outdoor recreation of the Susquehanna River. We have a whole river here, guys. Like, go out on a kayak or on a boat, go down to the Zimmerman Center, rent a paddleboard, get a life vest though if you're gonna go and do that. It's a really cool space, and we're so fortunate to have a river right in our backyard. The 7th bridge, by the way, is going to be a walkway that will be for pedestrians to the 2nd or 3rd pier. So that's what they're planning on. It's still in the works. We'll see what happens. Fingers crossed that it does get passed.
Yeah, because part of the tourism is the fact that this area is so rich in history. So think about the Underground Railroad. So I want to highlight the Mifflin House. So the Underground Railroad, when the Mifflin family had enslaved African Americans who had escaped and ferried them across the river. on their way to Philadelphia. So this pedestrian bridge and the tourism aspect is going to help people walk in the footsteps of these enslaved people seeking freedom. So I think it's a really great idea, and I hope that they can execute it in a way that really works and really highlights the struggle that these people went through. Yeah, and I mean, I really do think it'll be a great way to highlight these Underground Railroad routes that people took to freedom.
So this house was in danger of being torn down, but many efforts of dozens of people have worked to try to save it. Has anyone seen the images of the new center that they're trying to build to attract more people in this area?
Oh, someone has.
One. All right, you ready for this?
2 or 3.
Right? Well, isn't that cool? So that is going to be a part of the Susquehanna Heritage Center, Zimmerman Center. Again, this will be a part of the Mifflin House to attract people to talk about the Underground Railroad. It's going to cost a lot of money and it's going to take a long time to acquire, but I like that, again, this idea of improvement and renewal. York County always working to get better. That's the backside of it. And what's really cool about this is that you'll be able to appreciate more of the role of the Civil War and that it played in this area, as well as the freedom seekers who York County, there were enslaved people here for sure, but there were also a lot of people who tried to help people acquire their own freedom. So the Underground Railroad was live and present. Domi and I did one of our first one.
Our very first episode.
Do you know that Harriet Tubman came to York County?
Newberry Township, to be exact.
And helped with the Underground Railroad. So there's another video online if you want to go and watch it. So here's another just image of how cool this place is going to be. And then finally, the arrow there points to where they're trying to have a walking path that goes from the center down to actually follow the footsteps of people who were trying to achieve their freedom, and then go see the river. And I feel like this picture shows the 2 bridges that are still up, 5 and 6, really, really well. So, what do you think of our names?
I don't know, I think I did a good job with Gone with the Wind.
My favorite bridge, I like Steely Span. The pictures of those men out there, like hands on hip, like, we built this. That's right. Less than a month. That's my favorite.
No, I'm impressed with how fast they built it.
Which one's your favorite?
Gone with the Wind.
That was your favorite.
Yes,
it got
I came up with the
destroyed.
name.
Oh, okay.
Well, and the Burning Bridge, of course.
Yeah, the Burning Bridge is very cool. Yep. So we're hoping today that you walk away with these takeaways. One, that York County is a place of renewal. We can bounce back. If a bridge falls down, rebuild it. We also, though, each time take a second to improve it, make it bigger and badder, and then also, hopefully today, you learned about history, not just through dead guys and dates, but about actual people who lived it and experienced it and really built where we're at today. Please watch us on YouTube. We have more videos, tons of different types of content if you're interested, so really it's for anybody. And our next episode,
we're going to be at the Horn Farm. So unfortunately, this one is not open to the public. If you know that they had a fire and they're in the process of rebuilding. So it's just going to be Jamie and Jim and I, and we're going to go speak with the people at the Horn Farm, and you're going to be able to see our episode on Facebook Live and on YouTube. So thank you guys for coming.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So now we are going to have about 10 minutes of Q&A. My lovely student Dayton. Yep, there were a few. There were some down.
Repeat the question.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. So Dayton asked if there were other bridges that were in the area, not just the 6 that were right here. There were some down in Port Deposit, and there's going to be some north in Harrisburg. But when you think about people that were on horseback and that were in carriages, we're talking not just. I mean, I get ticked off when I have to take a 5-minute detour. I'm like, what? I have to get there on time, 5 minutes. But for that, it would have taken an extra hours to get over there. So there were other bridges. They were just so far out of the space that's why we decided right here. Yeah, thank you for asking that.
So I want to give you some quick updates on what's going to happen with the bridge you were talking about.
Great.
So as many of you know, there's a massive rebuild project in the works with PennDOT that we've been dealing with for 4 or 5 years now, 4 years at least. As it stands right now, we're getting a traffic circle up here, which I'll get me started on that. Traffic lights would have been fine, but they're going to put a circle in, and that's going to be somehow better. That's going to happen about the same time the bridge is closed. They're starting to work now, sort of this spring, on the underside of the bridge. If any of you want to get a real good idea of what you're driving across, go right outside here after work, look up under these yards and see the wooden cribbing holding the bridge up against the ground. My first year on council, we had pieces of the bridge fall down on Front Street, and we had to haul away with tobacco because it's not in good repair. Anyhow, the plan is they will be redecking the entire bridge. They're going to do a couple years of work underneath to shore it up and make it stronger. They'll be redecking the bridge on top. Those sides will be replaced with taller, slightly taller to make it compatible with existing safety standards. Concrete side, like it is now, they're just going to be extending it, so it'll look like it was extended. Same shape, same style. We're going to try to hold all the same look as what it has right now. And one of the other things that we're very much trying to get done, and I think we're going to have, is lighting underneath it. Like you've seen in London Harrisburg. We fought really hard to get that. And of course, there was a safety reason because we control the mayflies and, who aren't behaving the way they're supposed to. And they're also replacing all the lights on the bridge, just the balls, because the balls are apparently the wrong temperature. And the gloves. So, that's going to happen. The project originally was slated to be in the $50 million range. Then it went to 62. Then it went to 68. And the last thing I heard was getting close to $80 million. And again, 2025, we're going to close the door between 1.2 and 1.6 years, which may mean 2 years.
Yeah.
But the bridge will be closed. It will still remain open to walking traffic and biking traffic. I'm sure how we're going to do that, but that's the plan. All other traffic will be diverted to the Route 30 bridge.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
for
you so
sharing.
much. Yeah.
I work for Susquehanna Heritage, and I just wanted to clarify. So they showed images of the Mifflin Farm, and that's going to be our great place for our new center. We estimate in about 5 years. I will say we are not demolishing or taking down that lovely historic building that you saw. That is also going to be, and we're so glad that you were able to talk a little bit more about our plan. So we estimate within 5 years we'll be opening that as our new Discovery Center to really connect these Underground Railroad sites, as well as tell the story of the burning of the bridge that I can't.
Just one fact. When you actually get on this bridge, you're actually in Columbia. Because Lancaster County has claimed the river.
Oh, okay.
Lancaster County line is 10 feet off of the shoreline.
Yeah.
So the actual bridge is actually in Columbia.
Yeah. When? Yep. Go ahead.
I don't mean to correct you, but it's close. The actual fact is, and we harass West Methodist Township about this all the time, but the bridge is all in Lancaster County, right up to wherever the water ends.
Oh, the water ends.
And it's all West Enfield Township. And the funny thing is, West Enfield Township doesn't want anything to do with the bridge. So, when we have these meetings between the three municipalities, they're always like, we don't want you guys to spend money running around and whenever the river gets high, Lancaster County gets a little bit bigger.
So great. And the Susquehanna their center has a lot of blogs and great articles for you to read where I got a lot of this history. So again, thank you for all the work that you do. And again, being able to go and experience where freedom seekers walk themselves is great. Okay, thank you so much. We'll see you guys at 8 o'clock with Cody Esch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.